have Mr. Messy making Abel and Cole's Tandoori baked haddock from the recipe box, which you can see here. I love the way Abel and Cole lays it all out and delivers everything in little packages, ready to go. It makes it easy. Even an idiot like me can get it right. My assistant will keep me straight when I screw it up, inevitably. So first step is to peel and grate the ginger and pop it into a large bowl. I'm not sure how to pop anything into anything else, but peeling is not terribly difficult. You just grab your little peeler here with your chopping board. Try to avoid the fingers because they don't add a lot of flavour to the food, unless you're a cannibal. My wife says she's not a cannibal, although I've been suspicious for many years, so I'm going to try and avoid the fingers and stick to the ginger. Doesn't take long, a few seconds, there we go, done. Scrape this junk onto the bench, because you don't need it. All you need is the soft, yummy bit in the middle. Grab your grater, doesn't have to be a complicated grater, this is probably the most basic grater on earth, and then scrub away at this little sausage-shaped piece of yellow gunk, and scratch away until you get a nice little pile of grated ginger in the middle. Again, avoid the fingers, they're not helpful. If you look at ginger as you grate it, you get a little beard on the side. You can rip that off with your fingers and keep going. Ginger is very fibrous, it sticks together no matter what. So you'll always be left with, as you can see here, a bit of something on the side. What are you going to do with that? You're just going to chop it up. You can see what grated ginger looks like. Turning lumps of ginger into grated ginger is just a few seconds work with a sharp knife. This is not a sharp knife, but you can see we get the job done anyway. So there we go. There's our ginger, neatly chopped, if I do say so myself. So now I'm going to assume that pop means dump into a bowl, because I quite like the word dump. Never been a fan of pop. So there's our ginger dumped into the bowl. Now with Abel and Cole, you always get these lovely little packets of spices here. You've got your turmeric, you've got your garam masala as per the recipe. They talk about measurements, they talk about teaspoons. 2 teaspoons of garam masala and 1 teaspoon of turmeric. Now, you'd think the packets are already sized, but they're not. If you dump the whole packet in, you'll have used more than a teaspoon, I suspect, because I'm a suspicious bugger. So what I'm going to do here is measure with this thing here. See where the knife is? The knife is the arrow. 1 teaspoon of turmeric and 2 teaspoons of garam masala. So we'll start with the turmeric because it sounds more exotic. I like exotic things. Here is the turmeric. And here is a teaspoon. That's a tablespoon. Oh my God. Where would I be without my able assistant? You see, this is why I ruin so many recipes and why I'm being put on caution here. So there we have 1 teaspoon turmeric in the bowl. Look at this, look how much is left. You see, you can put this in your cupboard. You can use it elsewhere with other things because turmeric is yummy. Don't make the mistake I made previously and dump the whole bag into the pot thinking it's teaspoons. It's not. Now we're going to take 2 teaspoons of garam masala. I don't know what that is. I always thought masala was some sort of drink, like a sweet white wine or something you add to a trifle, but clearly it's not. It's a brown powder and it's organic, whatever that means. There's 1 teaspoon. I'm going for a 2nd teaspoon now. You'll notice how precise I am. Never has a teaspoon been measured so accurately as I am doing right now. Nuclear physicists could learn from my precision. There we go. We have 2 teaspoons in the pot. Next thing, it says stir in a pot of 0% fat yogurt with a pinch of salt. I'm not sure what stirring and pinching has to do with each other. 0% fat always makes me worry, because if there's no fat in this pot, then there's something else to replace the fat, and God knows what that is. We're going to assume, in this case, that the lack of fat is necessary for the recipe, and we're going to tip the pot in as it stands. So here we go. Pot, bowl, spoon, glug of yogurt. You can already see that this is starting to look like some sort of exotic mixture, right? I mean, we've got stuff in here that you don't find in your normal spice cupboard. Like, I mean, if you go to anybody's home, open their little cupboard, you're not going to find these particular ingredients in this particular measure. Someone's thought about this, and they've tried to make something yummy, and we're going to see if it's yummy or not. Now, everybody talks of a pinch of salt. God knows what a pinch is. I've never been able to pinch salt particularly. My method is to just go shake, shake, dump. I like salt, so I'm going to say that's a pinch. It feels like a pinch to me. Then, presumably, this needs some sort of stirring, right? This is a marinade for the fish, so clearly it needs to be mixed up. The Abel and Cole recipe is not specific about mixing the ingredients in this bowl, because they assume we're not idiots. They're not expecting us to just dump the fish on top of a pile of unreconstructed ingredients randomly and hope that something magical happens and the flavour is dispersed throughout white meat without any effort on the chef's behalf. Of course not. They're expecting us to be thoughtful people who know something about physics and something about cooking. So here we are, stirring it, making a marinade. And that's a lovely looking marinade. Look, it's all smooth and creamy now. There's nice yummy chunks of ginger to give it a kick. All the turmeric and the gram masala have been mixed in with the yogurt, and it's looking yummy. Of course, Mr. Messi always makes yummy food. So now we've reached the point where fish should be deposited in bowl. So I'm going to get the fish here. This is Abel and Cole's fresh fish, looking good. Haddock fillets, I'm going to say again. 2 of them. 2 people. I've never personally seen a haddock. Haddock and I have never been introduced, but it looks like yummy white fish with a thin grey skin, which is nice. So I'm going to stretch it out here. If you want to marinate something, you need surface area, because the marinade sticks to the surface of the food. So you can't toss it in a small little chunk and expect it to do something. You need the marinade to spread out across the surface of the fish. So that's what we're doing here. We've stretched the fish out, we've dumped it in the marinade. We're making sure it comes in contact with all of this lovely brown, spicy, gingery, juicy sauce. There's number 1. Number 2, we've got number 2 here, slightly smaller. That's my wife's, obviously. So I'm at least 40% bigger than her, and if she wants my piece, I'll eat her. And here we go, second piece in here. Stretch it out, make sure it's nicely covered. You've got to immerse the fish in the marinade, right? I mean, you want it to soak it up. You want it buried inside this delicious brown, saucy stuff. I mean, you don't want to get carried away and play with your food. That's just silly. You just want to make sure that you've buried it nicely, so that it can sit peacefully and absorb flavour. And so now we've reached the point where we have a glass of wine and have a rest for 10 minutes because the fish needs to relax. So here we are, up to step number 3. Our fish has been soaking away here in the bowl in its marinade for at least 10 minutes, absorbing flavour, getting yummy, becoming something special rather than just plain boring white meat. And now we have to prepare the fish to go into the oven on a baking tray. So here we have our baking tray, and here we have our baking paper. Now, for those of you not familiar with baking paper, it's basically just greasy paper that nothing sticks to. You could get away with aluminium foil in a pinch if you don't have baking paper, but don't use cling wrap unless you like eating plastic, which personally I don't. So we've got the paper, we've got the fish, and we're going to bring them together. A lovely marriage made in heaven. Here is fish number 1, Mr. Messy's fish. Here is fish number 2, Mr. Messy's wife's fish. Miss Tidy, as she's known. You see how lovely the fish look, covered in their yellow garam masala turmeric ginger marinade. What we do with this fish is we stick it in the oven. The oven's already been preheated to 180 degrees. It's good to preheat your oven because as soon as the food goes in and starts cooking and you get the time right. If you stick in your food in a cold oven, it's got to heat up to the right temperature, and then you don't really know what's happening with your cooking times. Everything gets a bit messy. So that's job done for now with the fish. We have to leave it in there for 15 minutes. And in the meantime, we're going to start preparing salad. Now personally, salad is a word that sends me running. I like words like chips, or mashed potato, or roast beef. The word salad is something that I think is associated with people trying to lose weight, people drinking Evian and munching lettuce. But Abel and Cole salads are actually yummy because they're chunky, which is wonderful for those who like to chew solid, yummy things. So here in point number 4, I like using a knife as an arrow. I feel it adds weight to the argument. Number 4, it says halve the cucumber, which I've already done. Here is half a cucumber. Take 1/2 and halve it lengthways. Now, the length of a cucumber is fairly obvious. It's not a square item. It has a long side and a short side, so that's fairly easy. And here we have 2 halves of a cucumber. Now, the Abel and Cole recipe says to run a teaspoon down the middle here. You see this here. They suggest scraping out these lovely seeds here to create something that is less seedy and more crunchy. But my wife and I like the seeds. There's a lot of value in a good seed. It is, after all, a part of the plant that reproduces. So there must be nourishment in there. So we prefer to leave the seeds. But please, don't trust us if you prefer to trust some person, nameless person who made a recipe. Personally, I trust Mr. Messy. So here we are. We've chopped up the cucumbers slightly further into 4 separate lengthways bits. And what we want to do here is make some decent chunks. These should be something that you can put on your fork and chew on with pleasure. You don't want little grainy bits of mashed up cucumber. You want something that retains its identity, right? That's the difference between a salad and a stew. In a stew, everything gets mixed up together and lost, and you end up with a homogeneous whole that tastes something totally different to its parts. A salad is special. A salad, everything gets to play a role. It retains its identity and it contributes to the whole in a wonderful way. So you make your cucumber big enough to chew on, and there is ours. Next step is to roughly chop the tomatoes. I mean, I'm not sure about roughly. I don't see why I need to take my aggression out on a humble piece of fruit. So I'm going to be gentle and calm with my tomatoes, but nonetheless I'm going to chop them up into chunks again, measurable chunks, chewable, juicy chunks. Now, I'm sure a lot of people have better techniques for doing this than me, but this is mine. I like to chop the tomato into quarters and then slice each quarter in half again. What you're left with is a nice, juicy, consistent, cohesive, chewable chunk that's not going to fall apart in your salad. It's going to retain its identity. It's going to be something juicy and yummy at the same time. So that's 1 tomato. Let's chop up number 2. No need to discriminate. All tomatoes are equal in the eyes of Mr. Messy. There we go. Things fall off chopping boards, especially when you have a chopping board as small as mine. It's the only thing small about me, however. So there we go, tomatoes in there, and then it says rocket. We need to put the rocket in there as well. Now, Abel and Cole has delivered us rocket in a lovely bag labelled rocket, which is good because everything to me that's green and leafy looks like lettuce. I could have mistaken that for spinach, lettuce, rocket, God knows whatever else, but you know, labels help. So we've got our label bag. Drag it out, toss it in. Now make sure there are no cows or rabbits in the room when you do this, or there will be a frenzy of excitement and your rocket will be consumed before you can even say rocket. Next thing is to halve the lemon lengthways. Now this is an interesting instruction to me because I'm really not sure what the length or breadth of a lemon is. It's not particularly cylindrical in any way, but I'm assuming that lengthways means this way, which is actually a good trick because if you do that, you get less seeds in your food, so they say. But what Abel and Cole says is take 1/2 of your lemon and slice it up into wedges and put that to one side. Which side is a matter for debate. I always put it to my right side, so that's where things get parked in my world. And then the second half of the lemon needs to go into the salad. Now, what Abel and Cole suggests is that you take the ingredients for your salad sauce and mix them up in some sort of bowl with some sort of whisk, but we don't have a whisk. We don't know what whisks are. Whisks are some magical thing used by proper chefs, and we are not proper chefs. So we use a cup and we squeeze our lemon violently and vigorously, extracting juice like a vampire, a rabid vampire. It's been starving and buried for centuries. All it wants is lemon. Here we go, juice in the cup. No man on earth could have extracted more juice from that lemon than I did just now. Look at that, my God. It's almost as if I've juiced 4 lemons in one cup. There may be seeds in there. If there are seeds in there, then just take said seeds and flick them out. Personally, I like seeds because I like to chew things. Next thing we have to add to our sauce is 2 teaspoons of olive oil and some salt and freshly ground pepper. So again, we go back to our measuring devices. My wife here is shaking her head at me as if measuring at this stage is less than important, but my Germanic urge for precision impels me, enforces me to use this device to measure exactly 1 teaspoon. So here we have 1 teaspoon of olive oil. I'm sure that I will suffer for this later. In her honour, I'll add just a little bit more than 1 teaspoon because I know she likes olive oil. There we go. So we've got our lemon and our olive oil. It actually says 2 teaspoons. So I'm going to get carried away. How about that? And then we have to add some salt and some freshly ground pepper. Now, again, salt. I think you should turn the camera off now because I like to add a lot of salt. The government would probably ban me from the NHS if they could see how much salt I add to things. So here we go. All right, it's safe again now. Thank you very much. We've added salt, a sensible, reasonable, responsible amount of salt. And now we're adding pepper. I don't know if you've noticed, but if you go to restaurants in the UK and Europe, 90% of all salt and pepper shakers are made by Peugeot, the same company that makes cars. I urge you to check it. This, however, is not made by Peugeot because we boycott the French. But we now have added salt and pepper, and our next task is to mix up those ingredients to create the salad sauce, and then we're going to take a little rest while our fish cooks. We don't want to stretch it out. We want to assemble everything at the last minute in one wondrous burst that will leave you amazed at our incredible skills. So, sauce mixed, not whisked, ready to go. So here we are, our fish has been cooking in the oven nicely, getting crispy and yummy. The marinade has soaked into the body of the flesh, making it juicy and tasty, and some of it's even slightly crispened up. So what we bring out of the oven is a masterpiece. We're going to put that over here and get it ready to put on our plates. Oven no longer required. And go off. No need to burn house down. So here we have our 2 pieces of fish, which we're going to slowly, gently move over onto a plate. This is an act of juggling that few people are capable of, but Mr. Messi is an expert. So there's fish number 1, and here comes fish number 2. And everybody is welcome to applaud and sing songs when, again, I take this even larger fish and transfer it successfully. Look at that, look at that. Would you? You wouldn't read about it, honestly. You wouldn't expect such a difficult task to occur so smoothly. So now the fish is done. It's on the plates. We're going to move that away. We're going to transfer this to the table, ready for consumption. And the last step in our process is to toss the salad and apply the sauce that we prepared earlier. Now, rocket is a substance that tends to stick together, because basically it's a form of grass. And if you leave it alone for 10 minutes or more, it will attempt to form haystacks, which we must prevent. So here we go, shred up the rocket, stir it up with your tomato and your cucumber, and then apply the sauce in stages. Stage 1. Give it another vigorous, but not rough, stir. Get all the ingredients mixed up nicely. One last sprinkle of the old sauce, and we are ready to go. This is how you take an Abel and Cole recipe from a lifeless piece of cardboard and a stack of unmentionable ingredients into a dinner fit for lovely people. Thank you very much. Hope you've had fun. We've had fun. We're about to eat. Good luck with your recipe, bosses, and enjoy.